Welcome to another episode of Anti-Moonboy News. I'm your friendly neighborhood anti-Moonboy, xenu, and let's jump right into it. So, we usually start things off with the super chats. I did not receive any this week, so we're going to just fly right by that. If you would like to donate, you can go to xmrchat.com/xenu, and I'll react and or comment on whatever you send me. So, you can do that. But let's move along to some channel updates, and then we will get to the weekly news. So, as for the channel, didn't really do anything this week in terms of uploading videos. I did work on darknet market maximalism, so that's on its way. T-shirts are also being worked on. I haven't forgotten about that. They should be arriving within a week now, but it's complicated. But the thing is, I am working with this like smaller American company, so the quality is going to be really good. What I didn't want to do is, deal with like a company where, I have them manufacturing and sending the t-shirts, because the quality for those would be terrible. I'll be honest with you. I've seen a bunch of projects do t-shirts like that, and I want these t-shirts to be something that you want to wear in public and like not be embarrassed by it. You know what I mean? And like they look cool is what I'm trying to say, right? So I'm really happy with how they look, but I haven't actually seen it in person yet myself. But the company I'm dealing with, they make high quality t-shirts, but unfortunately they have like 2 people on staff for them, and they're kind of hard to get a hold of. So I've been like playing email tag with them. We've been going back and forth. I think things are fixed now, so hopefully they can send that over to me, and we can start this t-shirt giveaway. Darknet Market Maximalism is basically finished. Well, at least the rough draft is finished. I will be making revisions over the next month, and I will be releasing everything probably like the final week of May. I think that would be a good target date. I should probably pick a date, of release date, and just stick to it, because like I said, it's basically done, and I just have to do some last minute revisions on it, rewording stuff, blah blah blah. So that is that. Now, as for myself, you can skip the next couple minutes here. This has nothing to do with crypto. I figured I'd give myself some time to talk about my life, which I do sometimes on this podcast. But I'm no longer unemployed, which is kind of nice. Back in September of last year, I quit my job because it sucked. And I had money saved up anyway, so it wasn't like a totally impulsive decision. It was somewhat impulsive, I must say. But I was just like melting away at a corporate office job. And, when you're like really just not liking something like that, it's hard to keep going. And the good news is I have savings, and I kind of looked at my finances. I don't have any kids or anything, so I was like, you know what? I can take a break, really. So I did for like 3 months. And then in January, I started looking for a job again. And the job market is terrible. So there was like a little regret that I had, pulled the trigger and, did this impulsive thing. But whatever, right? The good news is I did get a job now. And what's interesting is this is going to be in a completely different field. Let's just say I was doing finance before, and I was making like pretty good money for my age, to be honest with you. My pay has now gone pretty damn low compared to what I used to be making, but I'm kind of interested in it. Basically, my friend from Bible study, I swear to God, this guy, I'm friends with him from Bible study. We have like a men's group that meets once a week. It's a great time, by the way. If you're looking to like meet like cool, like, people who have their like shit together, you want to go to like a weekly Bible study, like men's group. It's a good time. Everyone has, it's a good mix of guys there of different stages of their lives and stuff. And everyone's just trying to like pick each other up. and help each other out, motivate each other. So it's a great time. And there's this one guy there who I've become pretty friendly with, and he owns a manufacturing shop. It's like a small business, and he knows I'm unemployed. And so he's like, hey, why don't you come down to my shop and, I'll give you like a little tour. And I wasn't really thinking much of it because, he was just being friendly, I thought. And I'm unemployed, so frankly, I've just been playing Skyrim lately. But anyway, so I went to check out his shop, and he basically was like, yeah, I need someone to do grunt work, and I can train you to do, what I do, basically. So I said, yeah. And so that is starting to happen, which is pretty interesting. I've never thought I would like switch careers necessarily, and I don't even know if this is going to work out. But it's pretty cool stuff. It's that Swiss machining kind of thing, and it's pretty amazing, like the intricate things that they can create. So, anyways, I'm starting that. I actually already have started, and it's going pretty good. So, it's always a good thing to like keep your mind expanding, right? Because, man, once you get complacent, it's so hard to like motivate yourself, especially if you're like a creative person, right? So with this channel and stuff, like part of the reason why I'm doing it is to like continue like learning about cryptocurrency and to like, by educating people, you're like actually improving your own knowledge, because like the best way to learn about something is to like educate other people about it. So through the process of me talking about all of Monero's weaknesses, I've made myself smarter, right? And I think I've gotten better too at doing this podcast. Likewise though, with like a career and stuff, if you're just like sitting behind a screen and like, playing on your phone the entire shift, like it's just not worth it. Unless like, you do have like a family and stuff and you're like collecting a paycheck, then like, okay, it's understandable why you would just keep the cozy job. But for me, like, it's just being lazy. And there's a lot of like interesting paths I can take after like starting to learn a trade, right? So that's at least my mindset right now. I'll probably hate the job in about 2 weeks. I'll be complaining about it in about 2 weeks, yeah. No, I'm pretty excited. So anyways, that's enough of the life of xenu. And yeah, let's get to the weekly news here. So we're going to start off with, we're going to start off with a rant, I guess. Yeah, I have it first, so screw it. We're going to do this bit first. We're going to talk about Unstoppable Wallet, which is a project that recently announced they were adding Monero. I'm sure some of you at least have heard of it. They are a multi-coin wallet. Right now they have Bitcoin. I believe they have Ethereum and Tether, and probably a few others as well. I don't know exactly what they have. But they're a wallet that really prides itself in being a privacy-conscious wallet. That's kind of their MO. And they announced they were adding Monero. That's all well and good. I actually talked about it on my program a couple weeks ago because, whenever something adds Monero, you're happy about that, right? There's nothing wrong with anything like that, right? So anyways, some time passes, and then this week I was on Twitter, and I noticed the Unstoppable crypto wallet. They made a tweet, and the tweet basically was a picture of Fluffy Pony, and it said that we don't know who founded Bitcoin, but somehow we know the founder of the most anonymous cryptocurrency, right? And it's kind of like, this is low effort troll bait, it's engagement farming. Why they're doing this, I don't really know. And again, up until this point, I just heard they were adding Monero. I don't really know anything else about these guys. So I respond to them. I'm like, yeah, Fluffy Pony's not the founder of Monero, right? And I kind of was just like, maybe they were confused. I'm being like optimistic still. But then I see that this other guy had commented on their post, and he was talking about how Unstoppable Wallet is sending mixed signals about Monero, and there's like a lot of negativity coming from them. And I was like, what? So I went on their page, and like, sure enough, there's like these like troll posts about Monero on their page that are just like really stupid. I'm not going to go over them. It's like just low effort kind of like bait posting. And it's about Monero recently because they just added Monero. So I guess that's the topic of the week. But then you go through their history and like, that's like all they're tweeting about. It's just like trolling, kind of like like playing dumb kind of thing. Like just trying to like piss people off kind of thing. Like it's completely engagement farming, like across the board. And like, I'm kind of just thinking like, why, like this model that they have to like try to win people over is like the exact opposite of what is going to win over people who actually care about peer-to-peer cryptocurrency. Like for me, I don't know who these guys are, but like, I'm willing to like be like, okay, cool. Like they're adding Monero. Maybe, you know, I extend my goodwill to that. And how do they respond to that? They spend the next 2 weeks just like shit posting about XMR. Like, what the hell are they doing? Right? And it's kind of like, if I'm going to recommend somebody a wallet to use and they need privacy, why the hell would I recommend them a service that just spends all their time on Twitter trolling? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know anything about this service, but if this is like what they're representing themselves as, it's a bad reflection of what the product is what I'm trying to say. It makes no sense, and it just turns me off to it completely. Why would I recommend any of this to anybody? I don't get it. And it's not just me thinking this too. I know a lot of other people have noticed this too. And so within like 2 weeks, any good faith that these guys have had with people who use Monero is like gone. And like, congratulations, guys. I don't know what to tell you. Like, and here's the thing, okay? What Unstoppable Crypto Wallet is they are a wallet that's marketed to people who don't actually use cryptocurrency, okay? This whole thing about them, you know, caring about privacy and stuff, I think it's a bunch of crap, okay? And why I know that is because it's taken them this long to add Monero, okay? That is a red flag. And I'm willing to give people a pass on it because, like, okay, maybe, you know, they were Bitcoin maximalists in the past, so they've come around now. I'll give them a pass, right? Which I did do. But like, if they then go back to just like being trolls and stuff, it seems like the only reason they held out so long is because they like didn't do their research, right? Because like, if you're a project that like cares about privacy, there's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't be endorsing Monero, or at least interested in Monero. It's the cryptocurrency that is being used on the largest privacy economy that depends on cryptocurrency. I mean, there's nothing else to say there. Like, Monero is being used there. And it's not just on darknet markets. It's on the clearnet as well. And we have like many different examples of this from merchants publishing their data. I'm going to talk about one later today with mynymbox. They are a service that gives out servers. I actually host my website on their server, pay to Monero. Well, anyways, they published their merchant adoption recently. Guess what? Monero's in the lead, right? So like, we see these websites publishing their data, showing Monero is being used a lot. Like, if you're a company, you should be wanting to support Monero, right? And now here we have this wallet that it says on their Twitter bio, take charge of your future, own your freedom, protect what's yours, and live on your own terms. Master how to secure wealth, stay private, and go borderless. Okay? That's their Twitter bio. And it's taken them how many years to add Monero? 1. And 2, right after they add Monero, they just shit all over it. What the hell are you guys doing? So really, this is just a reflection of just how poor cryptocurrency is today, where like these guys actually think that cypherpunks want to see this type of advertising. And it's not just these guys too. Like, I see this type of behavior from influencers, right? I see that with that Vlad guy. He does this shit all the time. And it's like, that's just a reflection of how bad cryptocurrency is, where they're flinging shit to get people to pay attention because all they're doing is just marketing shit. Like, they're not looking at real world usage. They're just looking at speculative vaporware. And that's like what cryptocurrency is to these people. It's just like number go up, making money. So when you have this wallet, Unstoppable Wallet, that talks about staying private and living life on your own terms and all that, and then all they're doing is posting dumb memes, it's like, who are you guys really, right? You're frauds. And that's what you are. You're not taking this seriously. And that's what pisses me off about it. I know I'm rambling here, but like basically, I'm pissed off about this because I take Monero seriously, and I take peer-to-peer digital cash seriously. So when people like insult that, then like I really don't have much time for them. Because like you're insulting me because like I care about this. So I don't know what else to say here. Like these guys just completely ruined any good faith I had in them. And then they like sent me a message on Twitter saying that they're taking this into consideration. No, you guys aren't, right? You guys aren't going to learn anything from this. If you guys actually want to learn something from this, fire who's ever running your Twitter page because they're a fucking retard. Okay, I don't know who it is. It's they clearly do not understand that people take cryptocurrency seriously. I don't know. I'm looking at their Twitter page right now, and this is what they've been doing for a while now. And I even read another comment from somebody essentially saying that they've been known to do this for a while. So whatever, man. Using privacy as like a marketing tool is so fucking pathetic when you don't actually care about that thing. It's just lying to people. It's lying to people to get their money and their time. Nothing really more pathetic than that, huh? All right, let's move on. So for the past week, markets had a actually pretty good recovery, right? We saw, everything's up like 10%. And a lot of it has to do with Jack Mallers, who has come out with his own investment vehicle mirroring what Saylor has. It's called 21, and we're going to be talking about it now because this is really the next ploy that is trying to pump the markets, and it is pumping the markets. How long is it going to last? Is it going to be successful? Yet to be seen here. But essentially, you have a competitor now to MicroStrategy. I have an article here from Bitcoin Magazine, and it says in the headline, Jack Mallers named CEO of new Bitcoin powerhouse 21 Capital, planning to launch with 42,000 BTC. It's backed by Tether and SoftBank. 21 Capital, led by the Strike CEO, will go public via a SPAC deal and launch with one of the biggest Bitcoin treasuries in the world. Now, I'm not going to read through this entire article here, but, this really is the next kind of stage for a lot of these investment, Wall Street kind of things where, you have ETFs. And now, after the success of MicroStrategy, now you have people looking at this as like a money printer, right? The infinite money glitch really is how they're referring to it, where people are convinced that Bitcoin's going to keep going up in value. So if you believe that it's going to go in value, you can just buy our stock. And our stock, well, there's much bigger gains to be had if you buy our stock, and so on and so forth. And it's been successful to a point with MicroStrategy. I mean, if you bought MicroStrategy like last year, you made a killing on that, right? Is it going to be successful in the long term? Well, that's the question, right? Right now, you have the Bitcoin maximalists. They're getting a little cocky now after the past week, but they're still pretty subdued. And what I think is going to happen is, I think Bitcoin will recover, and I think, and I've said this multiple times, I'm going to say it again, I viewed 125,000 to 130,000 as the top of this cycle, with maybe a blow off at 150. Which doesn't really seem too likely now, the blow off top, but I think 130,000 is what I've been targeting for some time now. And it's hard to reach that if, there isn't some sort of, lowering of interest rates or some other Federal Reserve scheme for the markets, right? Whether that's going to happen or not, I have no idea. And the whole tariff thing is a monkey wrench into everything. However, these guys are really banking on that happening. And the bullishness is it's ridiculous, right? It's all over the place, and it's reaching a point where they're literally just saying numbers like higher and higher without any basis to them. Like, they're kind of just throwing stuff at the wall, and no one's calling them out on it because everyone wants that to happen. But like, for example, this week, Michael Saylor released his latest projection, and he says Bitcoin's going to be $50 million a coin. He said that. He says, if I'm lucky enough to grind to 10% of the supply, Bitcoin's going to be $50 million a coin. So that's the new record here. And I am going to write this down, by the way. The new record for what Bitcoin is going to be, quote unquote, is $50 million a coin. Where he got that number, I have no idea. I think it's from his ass. If I had to guess, I'm pretty sure he pulled that right out of his ass. But he pulled it out nonetheless. That is the new standard. That's the new threshold. Last week we were talking with Looney Lummis. She was asked during, the Digital Asset Summit. I forgot where it was, but they asked her about Michael Saylor's projection. I think it was then $20 million a coin. So I don't know what happened between, this week and last week. Maybe the wind kind of shifted. I don't know. But now we're at $50 million a coin. I don't know what his timeline is. Who cares, right? Because he's just saying this to get more people to buy for his exit liquidity and all that. But there's nothing it's standing on, right? And this is just Moonboyism 101. Now, you're probably tired of me hearing me talking about this. And to be honest with you, I'm tired of talking about it. Because it's just nothing new, right? I can only say this over and over again, right? But the thing is, it's not just me that's tired about this. It's actually a lot of Bitcoiners on a whole. I am starting to see a shift where people are kind of getting tired of this. And, if Bitcoin, let's say, doesn't really go above like 125,000, 130,000, I really do believe you're going to start to see people turn on Michael Saylor, because these projections, he's saying them over and over again, and they're only getting loftier and loftier. And you can only do this so much. This is going to bite you in the ass at some point if the projections don't come true. So anyways, I guess we'll have to wait and see on that. But yeah, Michael Saylor, he can't stop, won't stop. It's a pretty easy job to have, I guess, when you're just having people send you money and none of it is stuff you own. So like, if you take a hit, you can just say that, oh, people are stupid, like he'll say, like, oh, people don't understand the digital, it's a digital energy shield of, Oh man, it's a world constrained on digital energy. The unbelievable billion trillion watts of energy going, he doesn't understand what the fuck he's saying. But anyways, I actually have a clip here of Jack Mallers talking about this. So let's give a listen to Jack Mallers on his 21 Capital and I guess his plans for it.
Acquire Bitcoin. Again, my one rule to my shareholders is it will be accretive. Our Bitcoin per share will grow. We will never have Bitcoin per share negative. At least that's our intent. Our intent is to make sure that when you're a shareholder of 21, that you're getting wealthier in Bitcoin terms. And that's my job as a CEO to deliver that. So we plan on raising capital in all different type of sectors and markets and really blending Bitcoin and incorporating it in the traditional financial system to deliver a powerful equity to the public markets for Bitcoiners.
Is that the selling point versus ETFs? Because you came up with this idea over the course of years. And since that time, there's not just been strategy that you can invest in or block, but you can get spot Bitcoin ETFs.
Yeah.
What's the upside? And in fact, a viewer from Bloomberg's asking, like, how can you have more BIPs than an ETF?
Right. Okay. So I got to be clear. I'm not preaching a future that I can promise. This is hypothetical, and this is our intent. Somewhere my lawyers are like, that's our guy, right? But our intent, Caroline, is that when you buy a share of 21, and let's say that's 0.005 Bitcoin per share, we go out and we intend to close deals, build products, add Bitcoin to our treasury to where in which you get a press release and you say, wow, 21's Bitcoin per share grew from 0.05 to 0.06. I just got more Bitcoin exposure. I got wealthier in Bitcoin terms just by being a shareholder of this company. An ETF is not an operating company. You know, IBIT isn't outgrowing your exposure to Bitcoin. It's a static exposure through their security instrument. Whereas for us, we're a business. I'm a CEO. Right. I get up, I work every day to grow how much Bitcoin your share represents on our balance sheet. That's the big difference.
Yeah. So, I mean, basically, if Bitcoin doesn't go up in value, then you're shit out of luck. That's what these schemes are, you know. So anyways, that's enough of that. Let's move on to Coindesk. So Coindesk released an article, and it's honestly one of the dumber articles I've read in a while. You can tell that they did absolutely no research on this. And it's frustrating for me because, you know, obviously I talk about darknet markets a lot. And the reason I talk about darknet markets is because these are markets where people actually need cryptocurrency, right? So it's a really powerful concept because most cryptocurrency usage today is speculative. Here, it's actually a utility. So I've invested a lot of time in researching these markets, or at least the cryptocurrency usage on them. And so whenever I see journalism about darknet markets, there's always errors. And in this case, it's not only an egregious error, but it's an error that's being perpetuated by Chainalysis, which is hilarious. So basically, this journalist who's getting information from Chainalysis is just getting wrong information. So it's not even really his fault necessarily. It's the fact that Chainalysis is a scummy company who is trying to protect their investments, right? They're trying to protect the fact that they are swindling the government into giving them money when their tools don't even really work, right? So it says here, it's backed to Bitcoin for darknet markets after Monero's Binance delisting. And that's from Chainalysis. We see here, privacy tokens have suffocated as governments around the world fight darknet markets. So it's back to Bitcoin for purchasers of illicit goods. Now, meanwhile, the largest drug market right now is Archetype market. And that market is Monero only. So I don't know what the hell they're talking about. But let's read on. It says, what to know. Darknet markets are returning to Bitcoin as their primary cryptocurrency. After privacy-focused coin Monero was delisted from major exchanges. It's not true, but okay. It says only some 0.14 of all crypto transactions, or about $50 billion, involve illicit activity. That's probably in the ballpark. It's kind of hard to measure these things, right? But that's probably around correct. If you consider like darknet markets and ransomware and money laundering, 50 billion to like 200 billion, I would say, but it's hard to put a number on these things. And here it says law enforcement agencies prioritize darknet markets based on their scale and involvement in fentanyl trade. The presence of the drug significantly increasing the likelihood of market attracting attention. Okay. Darknet markets are increasingly returning to Bitcoin as their primary cryptocurrency because of rising liquidity and accessibility challenges associated with the privacy coins like Monero. According to Eric Jardine, cybercrime research lead at Chainalysis. After major exchanges delisted Monero, we saw a significant increase in Bitcoin inflows, Jardine said, the interview with Coindesk. Reduced accessibility is steering users back toward Bitcoin. It goes on to say many Western markets on the darknet, a part of the internet hosted with an encrypted network and accessible only through specialized anonymity providing tools, had either fully moved to Monero or operated with it in parallel with Bitcoin before the delistings. Monero dropped off after it was removed from major exchanges. Again, this is just completely not true. You can go to Dread right now, and every single market accepts Monero, and there are Monero-only markets. We know that. The largest market is Monero-only, for example. So this is like just a lie. Like, it's not even true. What they should do is they should post the markets they're talking about, because it's not true. So it talks about they delisted it, and here's the best part, though. They then post as proof the on-chain data from BitInfo, and it shows that the daily number of Monero transactions has halved from this time last year, which isn't really true at all, because we know that back at this time last year, there was a flooding attack. Like, they literally post the chart showing the flooding attack. Like, it's highly misleading. And transactions on a whole are down in all of cryptocurrency, because it's just kind of like a bearish type of sentiment right now. No one's really spending cryptocurrency. Monero on a whole has just remained pretty level. They're also using the transaction chart they're showing is like the daily transactions. If you throw on the 90-day Monero usage statistics, it shows a slow but steady upward trajectory. So I have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. Like, this is just like bad journalism, because like they're not even looking at this in like a scientific way. They literally just pulled up BitInfo charts and just took a screenshot. And like, this is their proof that Monero is not being used as much, not ignoring the fact that there was a spam attack that we know that happened last year. Which, by the way, if they zoom out of this image that they took, this screenshot, if they zoomed out, you would see that it's like clearly an anomaly. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Like, terrible journalism. This guy, Sam Reynolds, he's a senior reporter based in Asia. He sucks ass. I don't know, maybe he just doesn't know what he's talking about. This is a terrible article. It's completely wrong. And this is just typical for crypto journalism. I don't know what else to say. That screenshot is funny, though. Like, it's like laughably inaccurate. So anyway, okay, there we go. That's that one out of the way. It has now been 1 year since Samurai Wallet was charged with a whole bunch of offenses by the Department of Justice, and we are still kind of putting together exactly what is going to happen in this upcoming trial. This is probably the story of the year and probably of the past decade, as it involves two cypherpunks who were about as passionate about digital cash as you could get. And, for me personally, looking at who inspired me and my mindset of anti-Moonboyism, you really look no further than T-Dev and Samurai Wallet, the two co-founders of Samurai Wallet. These guys were absolute titans in the way that they handled the encroaching Moonboyism that has taken over Bitcoin. They pushed back every single day. And, really a lot of the philosophy of what anti-Moonboy is based on is what these guys were doing in the trenches, well, on social media, essentially, roasting anybody who stood against them. And I admire that quite a bit, as I'm sure many of you are also feeling the same way, where you miss lurking T-Dev's Twitter posts. I mean, it was quite the entertainment, watching him take down the saps that just do not understand why we are here. We are here for peer-to-peer digital cash, and yeah, it can get messy sometimes, but we can't shy away from that. Now, the charges that are brought against them, they're ridiculous. It's in a similar vein as to what Tornado Cash is doing. They have a service. The service was used for illegal things. They have no control over the funds. So how are they liable? I have no idea. right? Because you can use that service for completely legal means. We've talked a lot about this, so I'm not going to go too deep into here. But really, the more troubling thing they're charging them with is that in a private Twitter DM, somebody mentioned that they were using this for the darknet, or they mentioned that they were using the funds laundered, or the funds used in the CoinJoin application. They were going to use it for illegal purposes, and this was just a law enforcement agent saying this to TDev, and TDev was just like, yeah, go ahead. You by all means do that. Like, this is just an open source project. And so this is what he's being charged with, where he knowingly was, laundering, or I guess washing the funds. But even though he didn't know the specific funds that was being laundered, just by virtue of him having the service, he is being accused of it. So, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of shaky ground that this case is standing on, because, like, if you went to, somebody who works for the U.S. Postal Service and you said, are drugs being sent every day through your service? They would say, well, yeah, they are. So does that mean that they're liable for distributing, illegal drugs? Right? It doesn't really make much sense. But in this case, we are, held by the courts, and I mean, it could go either way. Historically, the courts have been pretty friendly for code, in terms of treating code like free speech. So that's a positive. But this is a constant game, right? And just because we won in the past doesn't mean we're going to win in the future. And, in this case, as well as the Tornado Cash case, these are really important to watch, because depending on what happens with these cases will really impact things going forward. And like a victory here would be massive for, kind of easing the concerns that a lot of people have to use cryptocurrency privately and in a peer-to-peer way. And losses here would be, even worse, because, it would scare a lot of that entrepreneurial spirit of which has grown cryptocurrency so much. So anyways, over the past couple of years, cryptocurrency has really taken a nosedive in that, cypherpunk attitude. And these guys were in the front of the pack fighting against them. And it really sucks to see, them having to, battle this in court. But I'm sure if you had asked them prior to these charges being brought to them, if they were interested in fighting this in court, they would have said yes. So what you can do is you can go to p2prights.org and you can make a donation, an anonymous donation. I don't think they accept Monero. I had to use Bitcoin when I donated. You can donate there. And this is a really important case, guys. Really, this is a litmus test, okay? If you are not following this case or not passionate about this case, you're being fraudulent. I get that these guys were Bitcoiners, but, what they did for cryptocurrency cannot be understated. And frankly, what they did for Monero can't be understated, because they were among the first Bitcoiners to extend an olive branch to Monero, because they recognized that Monero was actually a real project. And they were working on implementing atomic swaps into Samurai Wallet. Of course, that never came to fruition because they were charged with these crimes. But, they were, very much the trendsetter amongst the cypherpunks. So, thankfully, pretty much everyone in Monero is supporting them. I haven't really seen anyone mouth off about them, really. In fact, a lot of the people who were criticized by Samurai Wallet, because they were quite opinionated, if you were around during the time. But really, even the people who were slandered by them in the Monero community, they've been supportive of them. So it really is one of those things where even if they rub you the wrong way, this is egregious, right? So we'll be watching this case, and again, our thoughts are with you guys. So last night, shit hit the fan. I'm actually recording this in the morning because last night, Monero's price spiked quite considerably, And it was very all of a sudden. My dad actually texted me about it. Father Xenu, he's like, "What's going on, Xenu?" I'm like, "What?" And yeah, sure enough, the price skyrocketed very quickly. And me, like many others, kind of saw this and we were like, this doesn't look like somebody who is investing. It looks like someone who needs a lot of Monero really quickly. And that ended up being the case. Now, this is from Zach XBT. He's on Twitter. And he said that 9 hours ago, a suspicious transfer was made from a potential victim of 3,520 Bitcoin, which is about $330 million. And then shortly after, the funds began to be laundered via 6 instant exchanges and was swapped for Monero, causing the Monero price to spike 50%, which it did. I saw that it peaked around like 315, 320, and like yesterday, it was at like 230. So yeah, pretty sizable increase there. And, why this happened, we do not know yet. $330 million is a lot of money. And my first thought is that this is probably another exchange hack, right? Because that's just a lot of Bitcoin that was stolen. We don't know yet, so this is all speculative. But if this is a hack, that is a considerable news story. And I will not be surprised if we see not only a lot of fireworks through the media, but also with overreactions from the government. Now, I've been covering the EXCH exchange and how they really over the past, month have been the target of a lot of criticism due to the funds that were laundered through their service from North Korea after that hack, the Lazarus hack against that exchange. I can't think of the exchange name right now. You know what I'm talking about. It's like the largest hack in history. So anyway, that happened and EXCH actually shut down. They've completely shut down operations and they said they were getting a lot of heat from the government. So here we have another situation. Same exact thing, except this time, and really for the first time in history, we can say pretty definitively that Monero was used to launder the funds. Now, in the past, we've seen these hacks happen, and maybe the price of Monero does go up, and we're like, oh, they were probably using Monero funds, and they probably were. But because of liquidity issues, it's difficult, and this is exactly why it's difficult, right? The price of Monero skyrocketed, and this person probably lost a lot of money because they were trying to launder their funds as quickly as possible. But they did use Monero, and it just shows you the low liquidity of Monero on these markets, where by them just doing this, it pumped the price up immediately. And by the price pumping up, it just shows you how little Monero is out there on these exchanges. 330 million increased the price by 50%. That's a lot of money, but relative to the market cap of Monero, it's not that much, right? I think the market cap is 5 billion or something. So, this is exactly why, in that North Korea hack, they couldn't just launder their funds with Monero. They had to use Bitcoin because it's just much more liquid. And it is a knock against Monero that this is the case, which is why these decentralized applications that we're building, such as Samourai or, we have Redo right now and things of that nature, they need to get bigger over time because, obviously this hacker here couldn't go on to Redo last night and use that because that would have taken them forever. They would have crashed the application, right? Now, they use these instant swappers, and yet again, we see these instant exchanges coming up. So anyway, next week, we should have a bigger update as to exactly what happened. But what I'm guessing is that this was some sort of exchange hack, and if it is an exchange hack, we will be seeing yet again these instant exchange services looked at. This is just a lot of smoke here, where these exchanges are being targeted by federal agents. They don't like these exchanges because it makes their job much more difficult. Obviously, these chain analytical companies also don't like them because it just makes their life more difficult, where they have to specifically target these exchanges and subpoena them and, do all this stuff to like try to get information from them, but it's hard to piece together if they're swapping into one cryptocurrency from another cryptocurrency. I cover this in Attack of the Poison Outputs, as you guys know, but it's really, really difficult. And in this case, what very likely happened is someone had a bulk sum of Bitcoin, and then they just went to different non-KYC swap services and did everything they could to launder that money. And I actually don't even know how much money they have laundered, how much money they still have to launder. I do know that it did like kind of pump and dump throughout the night. So, I mean, they could still have money. We'll see if this person has some bad OPSEC. Maybe they get caught over time. I have no idea. Okay. So this is kind of like a breaking news story. I'm kind of just reacting to it off the cuff here. But, my whole point of view is like, okay, what is the state going to do using this? What's the media apparatus going to do to kind of frame this? And what it's going to be is like, why do these coin swap services exist? If somebody can hack funds and just launder them immediately, why do these coin swap services exist? That's what their mindset's going to be. And when you have $330 million stolen, that sets off some alarm bells. And so here's just another tweet here from ZachXBT. He says that this was a longtime Bitcoin holder. They use Gemini, River, and Coinbase. So he thinks it's a theft. He doesn't think it's a hack. He thinks it's actually someone like a whale who has Bitcoin based on the metadata in this wallet. He also says that $330 million was suddenly moved today and transferred in small increments to instant exchanges, creating hundreds of orders. That this person is going to lose multiple seven figures to fees, and it's inefficient for a normal person to buy like this, which it is. Like, he was just buying as soon as possible. So, if this is just a regular person getting hacked too, that's another reality. I mean, that would be crazy, right? Imagine having that much Bitcoin and having it get stolen. Damn. But yeah, these things happen. So anyway, that's the story here. Let's get to some other stuff. We see here, alchemypay has added Monero to their fiat to crypto payment gateway. And this is actually built into Cake Wallet, as far as I know. And so basically with KYC, you can now buy Monero with fiat directly, making it pretty easy to do. So if you are looking for a way to buy Monero and you don't mind giving KYC and you understand the trade-offs of that, that's a really convenient option to have. So, we always talk about Monero being delisted, but it is still being listed on through different exchanges and stuff, and this is just another example of that. So it's not all doom and gloom for peer-to-peer cash, even though overall it has been like that. If you look at the list of the exchanges that have delisted Monero, it's a lot more than the ones that have listed Monero, as we know. So as I mentioned earlier, mynymbox had posted their statistics, and it showed that Monero was the most used cryptocurrency on their platform. Mynymbox, by the way, is an anonymous hosting platform. Monero was at 33%, Bitcoin at 30%, and Lightning at 25%. So this is actually a pretty solid showing from Lightning Network relative to what we usually see. So that's not that bad. But there you go. Just another example of Monero, though, punching way above its weight. And when you talk about Monero usage and darknet usage, people get fixated on the illicit purposes. But then, as I like to show, like, because it's being used on the darknet, all else equal, it's being used more. And this spreads over to the clearnet, as we see here. Speaking of the darknet, Sam Bent, who is under the moniker doingfedtime, he's the bald guy with the really big beard. If you know who I'm talking about, if you follow darknet news stuff. Anyway, he has a new site here. It's called darkwebdaily.live. And essentially, this site is a way to get links to different darknet websites. For what it's worth, link aggregation, it's not a crime. So he's not like committing a crime by doing this. So this is probably going to be one of the more reputable links for darknet sites, because Sam Bent, his YouTube channel is probably the biggest darknet YouTube channel out there. He's really on top of this stuff. So the fact that they now have a site where you can just go and immediately get links to everything, super useful. So that is darkwebdaily.live for those that are interested. There's another kidnapping cryptocurrency case. 3 men facing kidnapping, robbery, and other charges in crypto theft. This happened in Montreal. Apparently, these 3 men kidnapped somebody for $15,000. 2 suspects were apprehended. And they tied the victim up, a man in his 30s who ran his own cryptocurrency business. He was then beaten and tortured by his assailants for several hours. After succeeding in obtaining from the victim the details required to enable a cryptocurrency transfer, they fled. This person who runs a cryptocurrency company was targeted and he was tortured. If you're putting your face out there, really be mindful of this. I know a lot of people in Monero do this as well, but this can happen. So never relax on things like this, because there are sick people out there. And this is just another OPSEC situation where the most effective type of attack, it's a $5 wrench attack, right? This could happen to anybody, especially the people who are, putting their identity out there. So to wrap things up, I wanted to just talk briefly about something I've noticed in the discourse of Monero versus other projects that are adopting privacy protocols. And what often happens is that these projects, they're thinking about what they could potentially have, but they're not thinking about what could potentially happen to their project if they were to add these privacy solutions. I see this all the time. So, for example, there was a little bit of a debate a couple days ago regarding Bitcoin Cash. Now, I don't really have any really negative things about Bitcoin Cash. I think it's a pretty cool project overall. I don't like the ASIC mining in particular with them. If they adopted RandomX, I would like Bitcoin Cash a hell of a lot more, but whatever. They, compared to Bitcoin today, they really are more passionate about usage, which I really like. And I think a lot of people in Monero agree with me on that front. You could do a lot worse than Bitcoin Cash. Anyway, there was this guy who, I don't know, I think he wanted some attention, saying that, people in Monero are, I think he used the word screeching about Bitcoin Cash. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. Generally speaking, we in Monero are quite positive about Bitcoin Cash, because again, it's just better than other projects. Anyway, there was some decent discussion that happened afterwards with kind of people talking about what Bitcoin Cash could potentially have, and I'm not even particularly against what they're talking about. Bitcoin Cash does have script as a use case of it, where Monero doesn't have that, and so this makes possible implementations on Bitcoin Cash, better. Here's the thing, though. Let's say, and I'm responding to this one guy who was on Twitter. He said something that, and I honestly don't know anything about this, but I guess they could be adopting full chain membership proof like privacy in the future and things of that nature. And he's talking about all the potentials of this. And in his blog post that he made, he does mention that an advantage of Bitcoin Cash is that it's much more liquid than Monero. This is kind of a theme in this episode, right? We're talking about how Monero, it is being delisted in a lot of places. Sometimes it is being listed, right? Like we saw today with alchemypay. But other times it's being targeted and delisted. And that low liquidity is why the hack that happened last night was, when that person was laundering their funds, it was really pumping the market, because there's just not a lot of Monero lying around these exchanges. So his point is that because Bitcoin Cash is more available, it'll be used more for these privacy use cases. But here's what he's not considering. If Bitcoin Cash, and it's not just Bitcoin Cash too, it's other projects, if they start being used a lot for privacy, they will be delisted. he hasn't made that connection yet. He thinks that Bitcoin Cash is like going to be resistant to any type of delistings. But what we have seen is that these delistings are arbitrary, they're not backed by regulations, and they can happen at any point. As has been the case with Monero, where it's being delisted, which is what we're seeing with Zcash, right? Zcash might be delisted off of Binance. Has not happened yet, but if it does, you're going to see the value of Zcash plummet, because a lot of people are, I mean, when you get rid of a cryptocurrency on an exchange, it really affects people's viewpoints in holding that cryptocurrency, especially if they get delisted from something like Binance. Bitcoin Cash has not gone through that. Neither has most cryptocurrencies, but Monero has. And let me tell you, it's pretty damn hard to go down that path unless you're prepared for it. And this is a huge advantage that I've noticed that Monero has, because really the people who support it are kind of okay with Monero being delisted. Now, this doesn't mean the price won't, get completely nuked if this does happen. For example, with Binance, when they delisted Monero, I mean, the price plummeted. It was really bad. If you were a long-term holder of Monero, you had to kind of either look at it as a buying opportunity, or maybe you were cutting your losses, kind of thing. These other projects, though, that are kind of trying to get to Monero's level, they haven't gone through that. At least, and when I say other projects, I'm talking about kind of the more reputable ones, such as Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, or Zcash, where they're pretty much available on every exchange, and they haven't gone through that delisting kind of circuit that Monero has. That's really hard to overcome. And my whole point here is, if you want that future where you have fungibility in your cryptocurrency and you have these really powerful privacy tools and these privacy technologies, you have to be prepared for the retaliation, because we have seen time and time again that retaliation is hard. It's hard to deal with, and I don't really see many projects overcoming that. I think Monero is a unique case in that regard, and that's why I'm really involved with it, among other things, where really it is our bastion of freedom. The cypherpunks have kind of rallied around it, and it's what we are holding down the fort with, because, otherwise, what else do we have to turn to? There's really not much out there that has that type of really hardcore beliefs that, pander to the extremes. What we need digital cash for. So anyways, guys, that is the episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, if you want to donate, you can go to xmrchat.com/xenu, and I will respond to whatever question or comment you have. And otherwise, have a great week, and I'll see you guys next time.